I remember the words of General Chukov. The situation was really developing in such a way that everyone had to ask himself, his conscience, had you done everything to prevent the enemy from reaching the Volga, to justify the hope of the people, expressed in a letter to Stalin? The enemy will be stopped and defeated at the walls of Stalingrad. After so many days of brutal defensive battles, decisive counterattacks and daring blows of small assault groups, which gave our borders an unprecedented elasticity, the enemy still managed to capture a part of the plant Red October and come close to the Volga in this area. The regiments defending the barricade area were cut off from the main army forces. Such a success could embolden Hitlerites, and they, believing in the possibility to completely seize the Stalingrad bank of the Volga, would start trumpeting to the whole world that they had already seized the Bolshevik fortress on the Volga, and now it remained only to finish the scattered units. Yes, conscience suggested, no, not suggested, but dictated, order, to forget about their wounds, about fatigue, about everything personal, to mobilize all their strength, all their will in order to deprive the enemy of hopes for victory in Stalingrad, to fight despising death. And this meant do not wait for special commands, be active yourself, impose your will on the enemy, and beat him? Then, in those days, maybe I did not realize it as clearly as I do now. I rather felt it with all my being. I did not think about it, and there was no time to think then. It seemed to me that at that moment all snipers of my group, all commanders and political workers who met with the commander in the dugout of the division headquarters felt the same feeling, all except Captain Petersky. Maybe I was wrong then, and was too direct in my judgment as a soldier, but now, when so much time has passed, I can't change my opinion about it. Immediately after the meeting with General Chuikov, our group of snipers hurried to the positions in the area of the factory Red October. My gut told me that we should settle in the dark on the flank of the enemy's grouping, which was breaking through to the Volga River, and with accurate fire knock out those who were leading the German soldiers into battle. Just in case, each of us took with us, in addition to the sniper rifle, a machine gun with spare discs and a bag of grenades. We ran straight ahead through trenches and trenches, without ducking. We did not take a break once. Dawn found us in front of the fork of the Bani ravine, the right branch of which led to the factory village. It was a good position for flank fire and stealthy maneuver. But the fascist scouts were not slumbering either. They noticed the exit of Russian snipers to the flank position. Not even 5 minutes passed as mines scattered in a fan along the bottom of the ravine. Flames of earth and smoke rose up. We got under a rampart of fire. Everything around us went black. The earth and air in the ravine boiled, shaking the banks. So passed half an hour, and the rumble of explosions did not stop. When the shaft of fire split into two, one crawled northwards, the other continued to pound the ground near us. But it did not become easier, because the machine gun fire was getting stronger and stronger. The smoke and dust made us stuffy. We were lying at the bottom of the trench, waiting for the end of artillery processing and the beginning of the attack, holding machine guns and grenades at the ready. Finally, everything quieted down. But for some reason, the Germans did not attack. And then, like a ghost, a black, as if charred, man with a pipe in his teeth appeared at the bottom of the ravine. Only by his saggy moustache we recognized Logvinenko, the chief of staff of the 2nd Battalion. He noticed the snipers huddled in the trench and came towards us. "Are you alive? Everything in the ravine has been ploughed up. The fascists thought there were a lot of men here, but I turned out to be the only one. They gave it to me." I wonder why Logvinenko came here. Not to draw that fire on himself? Logvinenko took the trench periscope from me and crouched down on the berm. We started our sniping business. Fascists showed themselves rarely, but none of them left with impunity. Nikolai Logvinenko also fired a shot. I saw how the fascist's head twitched and his helmet flew off. "Well, Chief, did I kill the fascist or not?" he asked, as if my opinion depended on whether that fascist would live or not. "In my opinion, the shot was successful." "Yeah," I answered. Logvinenko was silent. Then, in a different tone, asked, "Do you see under the slab observation post?" "I see it." "And do you see the artillery tube?" "I see the pipe." "Good. Then listen to me. 3 days ago you restored the site of our adjustment point on the factory chimney. Now your task is to deprive the Nazi adjusters of their site. Is that clear? Well, if it's clear, then go ahead." And Logvinenko left. The task was of paramount importance. The enemy's adjusters and observers were directing the fire of their artillery, which was hitting our units attacking the enemy who had broken through to the Volga yesterday. It was therefore impossible to delay. Logvinenko, thanks to him, told us where their main observation post was. We quickly found the observation slits under the concrete slab above the dugout. They're sitting there, the bitches, shining their luminescent optics. We're going to blow a hole in it for you. 6 slits. I distributed them amongst my mates. 6 rifles fired. 3 minutes later, a second one. This second volley we made for insurance. Don't try to change the broken optics. You'll be guarded by an accurate bullet. Some time passed, and the dive bombers started buzzing over the factory. Heavy, high-explosive bombs shook the ground. Heavy layered layers of red brick dust, crushed concrete, black smoke and red fire were rising. What were we to do? A sniper rifle wouldn't help us, and here we were tossed by some unknown force. We run forward to the positions of the enemy, to the factory fence. There we can meet Hitlerites with fire of automatic rifles and grenades. A small mine splinter sticks into Vasilchenko's cheek. It is impossible to stop. Orim on the move pulls out the splinter and covers his cheek with plaster. Well, how was it? I asked him when we jumped into the trench near the fence. Fine, just a headache. The vultures were still circling in the air. Machine gun bursts of dive bombers pounded the brick fence above our heads. One bullet touched my helmet and exploded. Small splinters stung my shoulder, my elbow. I instinctively jumped up. It was stupid, of course, but it happens when a soldier loses control of his actions for a while and runs, not knowing where and why. Besides, the longer one is under the bursts of bombs, mines, shells, under machine gun fire, the less one notices the danger. Something like that happened to me. I ran dumbfounded, not ducking. Thank Vasilchenko managed to catch up with me, grabbed me by the collar and dropped me in front of a pile of torn rebar. We caught our breath. I look. On the right and on the left our soldiers were huddled in the trenches. They can't raise their heads, and Hitlerites are walking on their front edge at full height. They got brazen, taking advantage of the raid of their aviation. We must teach them a lesson, said Vasilchenko, putting his rifle to his shoulder. I followed his example. 4 Hitlerites were walking with cartridge boxes on their shoulders. They were not in a hurry, in a stoop. Without talking, Orim shoots the first one. I shoot the next one. The remaining 2 get theirs in the second turn. But Orim is not satisfied. After the second shot, his cartridge case blew in the chamber. The bolt jammed. Above our heads, the rumble of the aeroplanes is growing again. They lay down on a course of bombing our section. Now I made a sensible decision. I pulled Okrim behind me into the shelter, under the foundations of the factory wall. Arm explosions rock the wall. It seems to us that our shelter is shrinking, becoming smaller and smaller. Orim sits with his head down, angry. What's he going to do without his sniper? But now the shell casing is in my palm, and Vasilchenko raises his head. But at this hour we needed machine gunners, not snipers, and we imperceptibly turned into machine gunners. We went to counterattacks, pelted the enemy with grenades. During one of the counterattacks, Viktor Medvedev, who joined us, got into such excitement that he did not notice how Hitlerites were behind his back. They grabbed him, stunned him on the head with a buttstock, gagged him and dragged him. Whence came so much strength in my voice, I do not know. But when I shouted to my comrades, "Follow me," I thought everyone in the neighbourhood heard me. Having swung over piles of fallen carriages, we intercepted the way on which Hitlerites with Viktor Medvedev were leaving. The ambush was successful. Germans tried to hide behind the ruins of individual houses, but did not have time. Viktor was released. Besides, we managed to take one Hitlerite alive. It turned out to be a healthy red-haired German, in a warm woman's shawl and a warm fur coat. And it was because of this captured German that everything happened. The thing is that we did not manage to save him. On the way back we came under machine gun fire, and the first line crushed his head. Pinned down by machine gun fire, we stayed in the bomb crater for a long time. Viktor Medvedev lay unconscious in our arms. His head was covered with blood. Only at dusk we reached the dugout of Evgeny Shetilov, the commander of the company of machine gunners of the 3rd Battalion, and then we learnt that Captain Pitersky had been looking for me since morning. He'd been harassing the communicators, demanding to find Zaitsev. Where only we were searched, but even experienced divisional scouts could not find a single sniper from my group, and Captain Pitersky managed to inspire all commanders of the regiment subdivision to take us under supervision as evaders from fulfillment of combat tasks. That's why Evgeny Shitailov, who knew me from the first day of fighting in Stalingrad, now at the meeting spoke to me strictly. Where have you been? Is he really ready to accuse us of cowardice? I got a chill under my shoulder blades. I couldn't find the words to answer. No, Vasya, I don't think badly of you, but you must tell me. Where were you? Alexander Blinov, the liaison officer, had already called regimental headquarters and reported that the snipers had come to the company. Captain Petirsky demanded me on the phone. Well, brother sailors, consider our chief has fallen into a trap. Now he will be destroyed over the phone, said someone behind my back, and Blinov warned me. Vasya, hold on, don't be timid. Blinov was not mistaken. Captain Petirsky was scolding me with the most profanity. My attempts to say something in response was stopped by shouts. Silence. At last I managed to say, "Please send Captain Rakitiansky to sort out the prisoner's documents." Petirsky didn't wait for me to finish my sentence and shouted, "Where is the prisoner?" I did not quite correctly understand the Chief of Staff's question and replied, "Yet he is dilled." That's when it started. "It's not enough to shoot you," he shouted. "We are losing our best men to get a tongue, and you're shooting prisoners arbitrarily. I order you to report to your master about your actions. I suspend you from the command of the sniper group." Passing the telephone receiver to the signalman, I left the dugout. I was followed by Kulikov, Dvoyashkin, Kostrikov, Shaikin, Morozov, Gorozheyev, Abzalov, and Viktor Medvedev stayed in the dugout. It was Well, that's it, friends, I said. I was dismissed. Nikolai Kulikov will be your senior now. Why not Viktor Medvedev? Nikolai objected. Viktor must be taken to the regiment's infirmary. While it's dark, let's go together and take Viktor with us, said Shaikin. From the railway carriage, under which we were sheltering, we had to run 300 meters along the railway embankment. Here and at night, the space is pierced by machine guns. I would have to play a game of whack-a-mole with death to experience the soldiers' happiness. Maybe these are my last steps, and then they will write, as they write about every. Died while fulfilling the command's task, I thought sorrowfully. Holding on to the shoulders of the communicator, Viktor Medvedev came out. I feel better now, he said. Take me with you. We weren't going to leave without you, I replied. A rocket soared high over the Bani ravine, leaving a long plume of fire behind it, burst deafeningly in the air and hung like an electric light bulb. We crouched to the ground and crawled away. An ominous silence. It prevents us from leaping through the danger zone. The enemy is close by, listening for every rustle. We need a distraction. I'm up. Sergeant Abzalov came up behind me. We're walking along the embankment, rattling our boots on purpose. The fascists are silent. I throw a grenade over the railway bed, and only then machine guns rumbled. Tracer bullets pierce the darkness above our heads. We shoot off in short bursts, and meanwhile the whole group, together with Viktor Medvedev, manages to overcome the dangerous section. The machine gunners on duty keep Abzalov, and me under fire in a ditch near the embankment. Not waiting for the end of the shelling, we climb over to the gutter pipe and crawl, not knowing where it will lead. Somewhere shells, mines, grenades are bursting. Each explosion echoes in the pipe with a potter's clang and seems quite close, as if over our heads. It's a real trap. A machine gun will fire along the pipe, and not a single bullet will miss you. They must get out as soon as possible. At last there was a gap. The pipe led us to a new ditch with concrete walls. A rocket flared up. We pressed against the wall. Nearby there was a commotion. Grenades were bursting. Machine gun bursts were crackling. Machine guns were pounding away evenly. Where are we? Asks Abzalov. Maybe we've gone to the fascists? No, dear Abzai-Kik, ours are here. Fascists shoot bursting bullets and ours are simple. Lie still, they're coming here now. Lie down. Muffled voices are heard. We can't make out what they're saying, but it's our Russian speech. Soldiers are walking in the dark, stumbling. A rocket flashed again, and we saw 2 machine gunners. Our own. We can hear them talking clearly. Yeah, they must be lying. I saw them falling well. Where are they, then? Right here, I answered. The machine gunners fell to the ground. Then, having come to their senses, they raised their voices. We're looking for dead Germans here. Well, then lead us, the living to your own. On the way to the dugout of the regiment headquarters, we learnt that our guys had safely reached the bank of the Volga, to the medical station. In the morning I came to report to Captain Pitersky. I reported according to all the rules, even tapped my heels. The Chief of Staff looked at me without blinking, as if he saw something special. Then he asked, "What should I do with you? Should I send you to a punishment company or to Mamayev? And you where it is more dangerous. All right, Medvedev will be in charge of the group. They will stay in the area of shooting galleries, on the northern outskirts of the plant Krasny Okyaba, and you go to the height. On to the heights." I replied, not hiding the irony, and turned to leave. "Stand down," commanded the captain. I turned to him again, repeated his order, and turned round again, even more clearly. "Stand down." I heard behind me, but I had already run out of the dugout and without hesitation walked towards Mamayev Kurgan. 17. Turin and Kabibulin. I came to the 3rd Battalion alone. Sergeant Abzilov stayed at the headquarters. Stubborn and resentful Kazakh could not reconcile with the decision of Captain Pitersky, and my throat clenched with resentment. But, as they say, there's good without good. I was sitting near the dugout of the commander of the company of automatic riflemen, dismantled the bolt of the sniper rifle. It was time to clean it, and to preserve it. Shitilov came up. He understood what was going on with me, and after a moment's silence, as if by accident, he said, "Marcia, let's look at one place on the heights. It seems to me a fascist sniper has made a nest there. Yevgeny Shetilov knew how to get me back in line." "Where?" I burst out. "No, come on, I'll show you. To the south of the water tanks. Some kind of a hollow. It looks like a bomb crater. There are dry branches sticking out to the right of it. They don't cover the funnel bumper, but they make it hard to see what's going on inside. On the left side is a shrubbery. Next to it, on the edge of the funnel, lies a mine shank with the ends torn, twisted like the horns of a mountain ram." "Well, do you think there is a sniper sitting there?" asked the senior lieutenant. "The place is good, he can see everything from there, but he is unnoticeable," I answered. Next to the company commander in the trench sat Dry, Worry Stepan Kryaz, Shetilov's liaison, and smoked. He was a very young chap, but everyone called him by his first name and patronymic, Stefan Ivanovich. The soldiers respected and feared him. They respected him for his courage, but were afraid of him for his time. Finishing his cigarette, the liaison said, "If I were a sniper, I would make a firing post over there." Stepan Ivanovich stretched out his hand and had no time to finish. A bursting bullet hit him in the wrist. He rejoices at the wounding of a comrade. I, of course, did not rejoice, but I immediately lost my gloomy mood. Now there was no need to cheer me up with distracting conversations from the offence. There was a duel with a dexterous sniper who could shoot on sight. For a start, I decided to equip a few false positions to draw the enemy into the fight, and then we'll see. "I need an assistant," I asked Shitilov, after Stefan Ivanovich was escorted to the orderlies. "What for?" I answer, "To equip 2 or 3 firing posts. I can't do it alone." "Good. You'll have an assistant." Having calculated at what height the hand of the contact was caught on the sight, I made a mark on the wall of the trench, then unbuckled my infantry spade and began to select sand for the armrests. After an hour, I managed to mark 3 sniper posts. This is just in case we have to engage in a duel today. At the 3rd one, I left my helmet on the barrier for bait, and before I could move away, it was at the bottom of the trench. The dent showed that the sniper had fired from the same position from which he had shattered the contact's arm. Nimble, I thought. Well, if you can't wait, I'll try to calm you down tonight before sundown. By noon, I managed to see the shield of our Maxim ahead. It was camouflaged by dead grass and shrubbery branches. Between the branches, there was a black viewing hole of the shield. Once in a while, the muzzle pupil glittered in it. It was useless to send a bullet into this pupil. It would ricochet away from the barrel and only frighten the sniper. It was necessary to wait until he stood up or at least raised his head. It didn't take long to wait. The sniper was brought his lunch. 2 helmets appeared above the shield. But which one belonged to the sniper? Something glinted. A thermos cup. Yeah, the sniper must be getting hot coffee. So who's going to drink it? There's one with his head back. He's taking his last sip. I can see his chin. I pulled the trigger. The head tipped back and the shiny cup fell in front of the shield. And then a big soldier in his 40s came crawling towards me, his shoulders broad, his face sullen. What a meeting. But I don't say a word. Wouldn't he remember? Turin. He called himself? Yes, name is Pyotr Ivanovich by his father. Hello, Pyotr Ivanovich, I said nonchalantly. Why have you come here? The company commander sent me. Go, he says, to the bloody dugout where, he says, your fellow countryman, a Uralian, is building positions. I think he said that about you. So you're at my disposal. And who are you to order me around? Your fellow countryman. I answered, barely holding back a smile. Pyotr Turin, nicknamed Podryadchikov. My fellow villager can't recognize me. Hey, a fellow villager, a fellow villager. I've heard it from the company commander. Tell me exactly what you want from me. Being the right, not far from us on a hillside, we could see a broken dugout. I nodded in that direction. Can't we adapt this dugout for a sniper position? Oh, the mare was adapting to the swamp. She was left without hooves. 3 machine gun crews died there. The bloody dugout, they call it. It's shot, death goes there without a hitch, like the wind under a skinny zaipan. I laughed. I listened to Turin and smiled. The countryman took offence, his eyes narrowed, his eyebrows rose above his brow, and his head went down to his shoulders. Why do you grin and grind your teeth? I'm older than you, or I'll turn round and walk away and be gone. I've come to help you, and you're making fun of me. Turin stood up baggy, turned his back to me. He'll go away, I thought, knowing my fellow villagers' temper. Hey, contractors, wait, I burst out. Turin turned round. His eyes opened wide, his neck stretched, and he stared at me imploringly. At last his gaze became clearer and warmer. You mean Vasily? Grigory Zaitsev's son? The conversation was cut short by a machine gun burst. The bursting bullets burst on the barrier, showering us with sand and small splinters. Turin pressed himself against the wall of the trench. They noticed, bastards. Now they won't let us lift our heads. They will, I reassured Turin. This machine gunner must be set a trap. How will you set a trap for him? Turin asked with disbelief in his voice. I leisurely told him about my methods of sniper hunting, drew a diagram on the wall of the trench, from which points we could keep machine gunners in the crosshairs. If we cut one down, the others will be afraid. Their sniper has appeared here, Yurin warned me almost in a whisper. Nezity, speak louder. I plugged his ears with lead. I see that my fellow countryman has come to life. He easily turned to one side, to the other, and nimbly worked with a shovel. Wait, Toyurin. Call me Pyotr Ivanovich. All right, Pyotr Ivanovich. I agreed. We'll work with the shovel at night, and now bring here a periscope, a sheet of plywood and 2 nails. All right, I'll go if you tell me to. What about you? The sniper. He's gone. I reminded him. Well, look, so you believe yourself well. I'm off. I spent 2 hours camouflaging my main position, a little away from the main trench. I finished, and only then I felt how tired I was and how I wanted to sleep. With regret I remembered about my fellow countryman who I had sent the old man for plywood for nothing. This work could have been done later. He pressed his back against the wall of the trench and immediately fell asleep. Another 2 hours passed. Through my slumber I heard Pyotr Ivanovich looking for me, moving back and forth along the trench. His velvet baritone caresses my hearing. The countryman grumbles to himself, indignant. Then, just like in the village in a peasant's yard, he shouts fatherly. Vasya. I keep silent, waiting to see what he'll do next. Vasya. Come out, the tea in the jug is getting cold. I came out and asked he with him. Well, how's the camouflage, Pyotr Ivanovich? Lunch is good today. The porridge is pearl porridge, but with meat gravy. I'm asking you about camouflage, and you're asking me about porridge. Well, Vasya, I don't want to understand your words now. You need to feed yourself. We sat down to the pot. We took turns dipping spoons into it. I see Pyotr Ivanovich picking up grits with his spoon and pushing meat and fat gravy under my side in the cauldron. Why don't you take the meat, Pyotr Ivanovich? And I, Vasya, am in such a mood today. He explained it obviously unsuccessfully. and in order to put the conversation about meat to rest, he spoke affectionately. Now the shower, drink some tea and sleep for at least an hour, because your eyes are as red as a crayfish. I've brought the nails and plywood. Leaning my back against a heap of fresh sand at the bottom of the trench, I fell asleep again. I woke up in the night and could not believe myself. Pyotr Ivanovitch had wrapped me like a child in his overcoat, with a duffel bag under my head, and my legs wrapped in a faufique. I thought that a softer and warmer bed could not be found in the whole of Stalingrad. Pyotr Ivanovitch, you're freezing in just a uniform? Why are you? I wasn't freezing, Vasya. I was warming myself with my work. It turns out that while I was asleep, he dug a new passage to the dugout. At dawn, fascist planes swooped down on Mamayev Kurgan and began to rain small mines and grenades. At least 36 mines hit our trench. Smoke, dust, rotten smell of explosives, the black plume from the grenade attack from the air had not yet subsided, as the first large-caliber mines struck our trenches. We moved to the dugout by the new communication line. As it was, there were 2 logs above our head. From the explosions of heavy shells, the dugout swayed like a ripple. That's a cursed aspid, a Baserman, my fellow countryman repeated time and again. Mavi Pyotr Ivanovitch, who are you fluffing up like that? You know. I didn't hear the continuation of the phrase, a bomb or a shell exploded near the dugout. The exit was covered with sand, only a small slit shown. Well, Pyotr Ivanovitch, get up, we'll dig out. Stunned, he understood me by gestures, not words. As it was to be expected, after such treatment Hitlerites rushed into attack. But where they rushed, we cannot see. We found ourselves crammed into a bloody dugout. We work nimbly, silently, because we hear the stomping of feet upstairs. Whose feet are there, who knows? Pyotr Ivanovitch rakes the sand with his huge palms like a shovel. His bloody fingers burned as if he were shoveling not sand but hot coals. Now we must see what is being done in front of the dugout. My eyes land on the broad back of a brown uniform. An officer, no, a sergeant with a machine gun. His shoulders shook with short bursts of gunfire. Grabbing the machine gun, I pulled the trigger, but the sand-clogged bolt failed. With anger I was ready to smash the machine gun. The machine gunner's shoulders shook again. I pulled the grenade pin with my teeth and threw it under the machine gunner's feet. Pyotr Ivanovitch pressed his shoulder into the support post and pushed the exit with his legs. I jumped out to the dead machine gunner, grabbed his machine gun. Just then I noticed another dead Hitlerite with a machine gun. But where to shoot? There was a thick haze of dust and smoke. Only by the firing we can determine that the battle is going on in the depth of our defense. So we must strike from the rear. I was fiddling with the machine gun, but I could not open fire. I did not know the enemy's weapons. Turin next to me was shooting with a German automatic rifle. When I noticed the Nazi officer, I threw down the machine gun, grabbed my sniper and fired. The Nazi fell down. Having turned the bolt, I searched for a new target. Turin's ammunition was... He put aside the trophy machine gun, crawled up to the machine gun, turned it to the right, to the left, tried the stability, put his hand on it, pulled the lever back, put the doggy down and pressed the trigger. The machine gun worked like clockwork. The Hitlerites who had broken through found themselves between 2 fires. They scattered, ran in different directions. Bloody dugout now sowed death in their ranks. Turin led the fire, occasionally fixing his moustache and saying, Basermans, gotcha. The enemy mortars spotted us. They rained a volley of a whole battery on the dugout. I went deaf and immediately fell through the ground. I don't know how much time passed. When I opened my eyes, I saw first Turin and then some machine gunners from Shitilov's company. The enemy attack had been repulsed. The situation had been restored. My head was buzzing. The noise of different voices, multicolored circles floated before my eyes. The trench was standing on its haunches. The torn earth stank of heat, as if from an earthen stove. Turin was buttoning the buttons on my chest. His hands were shaking, his left eye was watering. Among other things, the soles of his boots had been torn off in the heat of battle, and he only noticed it now. Someone jokingly cheered him up. Well, Uncle, and the eagle. On the move tears the soles of his boots. Soon Turin's feet were already wearing blunt-nosed trophy boots with wide short shanks. During the night, the bloody dugout was equipped for habitation. The embrasure was closed with sandbags, the exit was insulated with a cloak tent. Inside, full soldier's comfort, and outside nothing was touch. Let the enemy think that the dugout is broken. 2 bombs do not fall into one funnel. Early in the morning breakfast was delivered. It was brought by Atay Habibulin, a modest labourer who delivered food to the front line. Putting a thermos with hot borscht in front of me, he happily put his arm round my shoulders and patting me on the back with his huge palms. Good, Tabarish Glabnai, we'll eat hard. Then T.A.D. Immediately Turin woke up, jumped up like a scalded man, his eyes angry. It seemed to me that he was about to throw his fists at Kabibulin, so I hurried to introduce my old acquaintance. This is my friend from the front, Atay Habibulin. And Sentiers saying mocked me. Nachbradovsky hamster, frontman. Why do you say hamster like that? Nepravda? Kabibulin took offence, and he began to tell Turin about himself what I already knew. A Bashkir from the village of Chishma, he got into the army by accident. He was escorting his son Sakaika to the front. He came to the station on his horse. There were a lot of people. A horse cart was standing aside from the station. Horses were harnessed, tied to carts and lazily chewing hay. My Nesta ran all night. The road was too big. He was tired, said Kabibulin. He tied his horse to a military wagon so that he could chew hay, and he went to look for his son. For a long time he walked along the train, approached every carriage, opened every door, called his son, but he did not answer. When I returned to the convoy, where I had left my horse, I saw that the horse was gone. The convoy was loaded into the train. My Neddy soldier was riding. Traces of a familiar hoof, with triangular horseshoe spikes, led him to one of the boxes. He was not allowed into the wagon, and he began to call to the horse. It put his thin lips together and whistled into his palms. The horse responded, kicking up its hooves. The echelon had already started. Kabibulin managed to jump on the step, but he remained as a driver of the platoon together with his horse. Just before Stalingrad, he found his son Sakaika. Father and son decided to fight together in the same regiment, and their horse was officially enrolled on the regiment's fodder allowance. Karashman Baba Fedya. So Habibulin called the commander of the platoon, Petty Officer Fyodor Babkin, who assigned him another horse and a steam horse cart. The regiment entered the battle for Stalingrad. In the first days, the companies suffered heavy losses. Kabibulin found his son at the crossing among the wounded, took him on his wagon to the army hospital, and returned to the company instead of his son, leaving the horses and wagon in the rear of the division. My Sakaika was bleeding a lot. A bomb killed his horse. I'll carry the cartridge. And you called me Komyak K. Day. Kabibulin finished his story.
Turin softened.
Okay, sorry. From that moment, they seemed to establish mutual understanding between them, but Turin was ready to hurt Kabibulin with something. In the meantime, he began to visit our dugout more and more often. He delivered lunches, boxes of ammunition or grenades. He was a double-strung man. He did not go without a load. If he carried ammunition to one side, he carried a wounded man back. He did not speak Russian well, but he knew well what a soldier needed in the trenches. He called Sniper Abzalov my Sakai and spoke to him in his native language. Abzalov paid him kind attention, called him a Tay. Kabibulin was awarded the Medal for Combat Merits. He was happy about this award, probably more than I, who received the Order of the Red Banner. For 2 months of fighting in Stalingrad, Kabibulin became an experienced, brave warrior. And suddenly he failed. Somehow he appeared pale, his lips turned blue. Wounded. Kabibulin collapsed face down. 2 dark spots on his back. Turin took off his overcoat, put plasters on his wounds, bandaged his broken elbow. Not a single sound, not a single moan did not make Kabibulin. I put a flask to his mouth. Kabibulin smiled and shook his head negatively. Your reserve doesn't take mine. Well, at least a sip, it will be easier. Turin persuaded him. At least a drop, it was taken from your hands, you brought it. All right, Arrow Man, you mustn't look at the fire. It's sinful. Only now we've learnt that he doesn't drink and can't stand alcohol. It seems to be his faith, explained Turin. And in vain it will be hard for him to bear the pain without alcohol. He should go to the infirmary. Let's not go. Kabibulin objected. My Sakaika will die there. I wanted to grab a sniper and avenge for Kabibulin that machine gunner who whipped him in the back, but after the contusion my hands were still shaking. Abzelov did it for me. In the evening, when it got dark, Turin and Kabibulin, hugging each other by the shoulders, went to the exit from the dugout. Here they were met by Vasily Zakharovich Tkachenko, head of the division's political department, who had come here with a group of my sniper friends. "Stay back," Nuyarin said to the snipers. "You must respect the Urals and Bashkiria are coming. Turin with Kabibulin, 18. At night our scouts brought in a Sakatang. At the interrogation he reported that the fascist command was seriously concerned about the actions of our snipers. Major Konings, the head of the German sniper school, was brought from Berlin by aeroplane and given the task to kill first of all, as the prisoner put it, the main hare. The division commander, Colonel Batyuk, was in a good mood. "Major for our boys is nothing," he joked. "The Führer himself should have flown in. It would have been more interesting to hunt this bird. Right, Zaitsev?" "That's right, Comrade Colonel," I say, and I think to myself, it's easy to say, after all, the head of the school is probably a hardy beast. "Well, we must destroy this super sniper," said the commander in a stern tone. "But act carefully, cleverly." I'd already learned to quickly figure out the handwriting of fascist snipers, by the nature of fire and camouflage without much difficulty distinguished more experienced shooters from beginners, cowards from stubborn and determined. But the character of the head of their school remained a mystery to me for a long time. Our daily observations did not give anything definite. It was difficult even to say on what section of the fascist. Probably he often changed positions and was as cautiously searching for me as I was for him. Not stopping the search for the Berlin super sniper, I tried to analyze my personal experience and the experience of my comrades to find the most correct solution. Experience told me that without the help of my friends in the trenches, shooters, machine gunners, sappers, and signalmen, one could not count on success. Usually, after a fascist sniper was detected and his location was determined, I called up, say, a machine gunner, gave him a pipe, took a trench periscope myself, pointed out the most visible object, and began to guide the machine gunner's vision along the landmarks. And then, when the machine gunner sees the fascist sniper, make sure how cleverly he disguises himself. Then this machine gunner becomes your competent assistant. Such a demonstration takes an hour, sometimes two. Some snipers reproached me. "Soldiers don't need this display at all. If you need an assistant, the company commander will order it, and any soldier will go to you for good." All this is right, but I was addressing the heart of the soldier, his consciousness, his conscience. And when we understand each other well, then come mental joy and success. In addition, during the preparation of false positions, the installation of the layout, its camouflage gave me the opportunity to study each soldier, who is capable of what. Another soldier look initiative, courageous, but not suitable for assistance. Too hot, flares up and goes out. Here to not rely on such a one in a long struggle. After the first dangerous shaking, he will find a reason to leave you on the pretext of a more important matter. And in fact, he simply ran out of courage. Such characters are not uncommon among novice snipers. The characters of enemy snipers are more difficult to unravel. It is only clear to me that they are all stubborn, and for them I have found my method. You prepare a doll well, put it inconspicuously, and start moving it. The doll, like a person, should change its poses. Next to the doll is your well-disguised position. The enemy sniper has given a shot at the doll, but it remains alive, and then the demonstration of tenacity begins. He makes a second shot, then prepares for a third, but, as a rule, before the third shot himself is caught in the crosshairs. Experienced enemy snipers go to their positions under cover of fire and accompanied by 2 or 3 assistants. In front of such a wolf, I used to pretend to be a novice, or rather a simple soldier, and that way I put his vigilance to sleep or just started joking with him. After each shot I showed him the result of firing with conventional signs, as it is customary at the firing range during practice firing. The fascist sniper quickly got used to such a target and stopped noticing it. And as soon as he was distracted by other targets, I instantly took the place of the target. It takes a few seconds. Threw aside the target and caught the fascist's head in the crosshairs of the sight of my sniper. I divided target detection in the enemy camp into 2 stages. The first began with studying the enemy's defense. Then I learnt where, when, and under what conditions our fighters were wounded. In this case I was well assisted by orderlies. They told me where a wounded man was picked up, and I went there, looked for eyewitnesses, from them learnt all the details of the wounding history, and at the expense of this I unravelled the enemy's fire pattern. This I refer to the first stage of determining where to find the target. The second stage I call finding the target. In order not to be caught by a Nazi sniper, I used a window periscope or an artillery tube to scout the area. The optical sight of a sniper rifle or binoculars are not suitable in this case. Experience has shown that where there used to be a revival of the enemy and now you can't notice any unnecessary movement, it means that there is a predator there. That's why I told my sniper friends, if you haven't studied the situation, if you haven't talked to people, don't go to the edge. In sniping, one should adhere to the principle of the folk proverb. Measure 7 times, cut once. And indeed, to prepare an accurate shot, one should work hard, invent, study the character, strength of the enemy, find his weak points, and only after that start to solve the problem with one shot. Successful observation is achieved only by practical training, directly on the ground. In a combat situation, these skills are not so easy to acquire. Every exit to a position must be ensured by strict camouflage. A sniper who cannot observe in disguise is no longer a sniper, but simply a target for the enemy. When you come to the front line, camouflage yourself, lie down like a stone and observe, study the terrain, make a card, put special signs on the card. If in the process of observation you showed yourself by some careless movement of your head, opened yourself to the enemy and did not manage to hide in time, remember you made a mistake. You will get a bullet in your head only for your blunder. This is the life of a sniper. That's why when training snipers, I personally gave concealment and camouflage the main attention. Each sniper has his own tactics, his own techniques, his own inventions and ingenuity. But all beginners and experienced snipers should always remember that you are facing a tactically mature, enterprising, resourceful, and very accurate shooter. He must be outsmarted, drawn into a complex struggle, and thus bound to the favoured position. How to achieve this? Devise false moves, scatter his attention, confuse his tracks, annoy him with intricate movements, tire his visual concentration. I am against the organisation of a fundamental sniper post, even in a long-term defence system. The sniper is a nomad appearing suddenly where the enemy does not expect him. Fire initiative must be fought for. Solving the enemy's riddles alone will do nothing. If you don't have the confidence to pay for these tricks with accurate fire quickly and decisively. As he runs in the area of ice storage, in the location of the 6th Company's defence, snipers Nikolai Kulikov and Galifan Abzalov did not show any signs of life on their site during the day. They were sitting in a trench under the railway bed. Only on the second day they attached tin cans to a rope and took them out before dawn to the neutral zone. One end of the rope remained in the trench. The sun came up, and the tins rattled under the very nose of the Germans. They began to peer out. One head appeared, another. The snipers fired a shot each. An hour later the same thing happened again. Thus, by the evening, Kulikov and Abzalov put out of action the whole department of the enemy. During a period of some calm at the front line, I met among the ruins of 2 soldiers' snipers, Ifinogenov and Shabina. They were sluggishly walking towards me. We said hello, stepped aside from the path, sat down on the rocks and smoked. "Where are you going?" I asked them. "To the location of the company. The fascists are lurking, do not show their noses. We can rest," answered Shabina. "In vain, go away." She answered, "The moment is convenient for target shooting." The guys agreed, and we went to the shooting gallery area. On the way it turned out that both of them had never done any shooting of possible targets. They considered it unnecessary. They just walked among the ruins all along the front line and, having noticed the enemy, opened fire. It could not be otherwise. The distance to the target could not be determined at once. There was no data prepared in advance for firing, and the target appeared for a few seconds. That was the reason for misses. It is necessary to prepare several posts in advance, to study well the terrain ahead, to outline landmarks, and to determine the distance to them. Then even in the hours of silence there will be success. We reached the settlement of the factory, went into one destroyed house. Here was my reserve post. I showed my comrades where the enemy had bunkers, machine gun points, direct-fire guns, observation posts, combat guards, and so. As you can see, a sniper doesn't need to know much about the enemy defense. He came to the position, found the necessary sheet in his notebook, made the necessary corrections in his shooting card and waited for the opportune moment. For a well-trained sniper, it is enough that the target appears for a short time. During this time, it is necessary to catch it on the fly, aim and make a shot without missing. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Now the fascists have lunchtime. I said, addressing my comrades, they are punctual. And I took out a piece of plywood from the wall of the trench. A shooting card was drawn on it. Some of the numbers had been erased by time. I took out a stub of a pencil, updated the figures, then put the necessary sight, prepared to shoot, and waited. My comrades were watching the enemy position through trench periscopes. They sat quietly. We watched the enemy's behaviour carefully. An hour passed. The fervour and hunting passion of my young friends began to fade. I got tired of monotony. I wanted to move to another position to talk to the soldiers. Wait, I pulled them back. You can't talk in an ambush. My friends were silent. After that, a few more minutes passed. A head appeared in the German trench. I immediately fired a shot. A German helmet flew out onto the berm. Everything went quiet again. The helmet lay on the very top of the bumper. And from the trench, where the head appeared, a shovel began to move. The survivor of the second fascist was deepening his trench. I more than once had to beat fascists by choice. There were such cases when, through the telescopic sight, I met my old acquaintances. Observing the enemy's behaviour is my passion. You'll see, a pompous fascist officer comes out of a dugout. He's being important. He gestures imperiously and disperses the soldiers in different directions. They exactly fulfill his will, his wishes, his whim, but he doesn't know that he has only seconds to live. I can see his thin lips, straight teeth, broad, heavy chin and fleshy nose. Sometimes it felt as if a snake had been captured under his head. It wriggled, and my hand clenched, and a shot rang out. In our division, it became a rule among snipers to gather in one dugout and summarize the results of the day, to express their suggestions, to inform about novelties in the enemy's tactics.
It takes a sniper only 10 seconds to make an aimed shot. Thus, in 1 minute a sniper can fire 5 shots. It takes 20-30 seconds to load ammunition into a rifle. As you can see, in 1 minute, 10 snipers can kill 50 enemy soldiers. Among us, snipers was considered the highest specialist Sasha Kalentyev.
We treated him with respect. We knew that he had graduated from the Moscow School of Snipers and knew well the rules of firing a rifle with a sniper's sight. And one day he opened his gas mask bag, threw out cartridges, a grenade, a dirty rag, which was called a towel, then pulled out a small folder in a leather binding, unfolded it and read us the words, which I immediately wrote down in my notebook. The way to an accurate shot is a small path, laid along the edge of the precipitous bank of a bottomless abyss. Going out for a duel, each sniper is worried as if one foot stands on the edge of a rock. To stand over the precipice on a sharp rock. You need, of course, courage, training, calmness and equanimity. Such a feeling overwhelmed me. The winner of the fight is the one who is able to overcome himself first. Thus, rethinking and reflecting on my experience. Together with my comrades, I was looking for the way to the decisive duel with the Berlin super sniper, who was skillfully outplaying us. But one day my friend Morozov from the Urals had his telescopic sight broken by the sniper, and Shaikin was wounded. Morozov and Shaikin were experienced snipers. They often came out victorious in the most complicated and difficult battles. There was no doubt now. They had come across the fascist super sniper I was looking for. At dawn, I left with Nikolai Kulikov to the very positions where our comrades had been yesterday. Emilia many days studied the front edge of the enemy. Nothing new. The day is ending, but here a helmet suddenly rises above the fascist trench and slowly moves along the trench. Should I shoot? No. It's a trick. The helmet swings unnaturally. It is probably carried by the sniper's assistant, and the sniper is waiting for me to give myself away with a shot. We sat in vain until dark. Where the hell can he camouflage himself? Asks Kulikov, when under the cover of night we left the ambush. That's the point, I say. What if he's not here? Maybe he left a long time ago? Kulikov expressed his doubts, but by the patience that our enemy showed, not revealing himself in any way during the whole day, I just guessed that the Berlin sniper was here. Special vigilance was required. The second day had passed. Whose nerves will be stronger? Who will outsmart whom? Nikolai Kulikov, my faithful frontline friend, was also fascinated by this fight. He no longer doubted that the enemy was in front of us and firmly hoped for success. In the evening, a letter from Vladivostok was waiting for me in the dugout. My colleagues wrote, "We have learnt about your heroic feats on the banks of the Volga. We are proud of you, our pupil." I felt uncomfortable. I wanted to break the front custom and read the letter in private. Comrades write about feats, and here I was hunting for one fascist for a day without any use. But Kulikov and Medvedev grumble. If you're from the Pacific Ocean, read aloud. I had to read. It seemed that not a letter, but a Pacific wave broke into the dugout, evoking dear memories. Then Viktor Medvedev said, "We must reply at once. Write Vasya on behalf of all of us. We won't disgrace our naval honor." On the third day, Danilov, a political officer, went with us to the ambush. The night darkness was clearing. The enemy's positions were becoming clearer every minute. Nearby, the battle boiled up. Shells hissed in the air, but we, having fallen to the optical devices, were watching what was going on ahead. "Here it is, I'll show you with my finger," suddenly exclaimed the political officer. He slightly, just for a second, lifted himself above the barrier, but it was enough. Fortunately, the bullet only wounded the political officer. Of course, only an experienced sniper could shoot like that. I looked for a long time into the enemy positions, but I could not find his ambush. For many days I had learnt the enemy's front line so well that I noticed at once every new crater, every newly appeared bunker. Now there was nothing new or suspicious. But from the rapidity of the shot, I concluded that the sniper was somewhere in front of us. I continued to watch. On the left, a tank; on the right, a bunker; a Nazi in the tank? No. An experienced sniper wouldn't go in there. In the bunker? No, the embrasure is closed tight. Between the tank and the bunker, on a flat place, in front of the fascists' defence line, there is an iron sheet with a small hillock of broken bricks. It had been there for a long time. It had become familiar. I put myself in the position of the enemy. Where is better to take a sniper post? Shouldn't we dig a cell under that sheet? At night, make hidden passages to it? Yes, it's probably there, under the iron sheet, on the neutral strip. I thought I'd check it out. I put my mitten on the plank, lifted it up. The fascist took the bait. Yeah, that's good. I carefully lowered the plank into the trench in the same position as I had lifted it. I look at the hole. No beveling, a direct hit. So that's right. The fascist is under... There, Viper, comes the quiet voice of Nikolai Kudikov from the ambush nearby. Now we must lure him out, at least the edge of the head. It is useless to achieve this now, but from this fortunate position he is unlikely to leave. His character is now quite well known. We set up our post at night. We occupied it till dawn. In the morning, Hitlerites opened indiscriminate fire. Enemy mortars were beating on the crossing of the Volga. Rockets flew into the sky. Then our artillery struck, and fascist mortars became silent. German bombers appeared. The Kurikov made a blind shot. The sniper should have been intrigued. We decided to wait out the first half of the day. The glitter of optics could give us away. In the afternoon, our rifles were already in the shade, and the direct rays of the sun fell on the fascists' positions. At the edge of the leaf, something glittered. An accidental shard of glass or a sniper's sight. Kulikov carefully, as only the most experienced sniper can do, began to lift the helmet. The Nazi fired. Kulikov lifted up for a moment, shrieked loudly, and fell. At last the Soviet sniper, the Mainherr, who had been hunted for 4 days, was killed. Thought, probably, the German, and stuck half his head out from under the leaf. I struck. The fascists had settled down, and the telescopic sight of his rifle still glistened in the sun. Kulikov was lying at the bottom of the trench, laughing loudly. "Run," I shouted to him. Nikolai jumped up and crawled after me to the reserve post, and on our ambush the fascists poured artillery fire. See, as soon as it got dark, ours in this area conducted a night sortie. In the midst of the battle, Kulikov and I pulled out from under the iron sheet, killed Nazi major, extracted his documents and delivered them to the division commander. "I was sure that you will shoot this Berlin bird," said Colonel Batyuk. "But you, Comrade Zaitsev, have a new task. Tomorrow on one side is expected to attack the Nazis." Chuikov ordered to select a group of the best snipers and disrupt the attack. "How many men do you have in the ranks?" 13 men. The commander hesitated. Then he said, "No, so 13 against hundreds. Can you manage?" "We'll try," I answered. 19. Serving the Soviet Union? I have a bandage over my eyes and a crown of bandages on my head. I can't see a thing. How many days and nights have passed since I fell into this gloom? It is hard to say. After all, a sighted person meets each new day with the dawn and part with it in the evening twilight. But here, solid, without the slightest gap, darkness. And try to count how many days and nights you lie, or rather, fly into this bottomless depth without habit. The blessing is hearing and sense of smell, which help to comprehend the surrounding and count not only days, but even hours. This skill does not come at once, but only when you get used to blindness. It is not for nothing that blind people's hearing is sharpened to the point that they can measure distance by sound. They even say, sighted hearing. I've experienced it myself. Somewhere on the 3rd or 4th week of my stay in the hospital, I, by sniper's habit, could almost unmistakably determine the distance to a dog that was barking on the outskirts of the village. Distance on a straight line of sight. Even thought, on the line of sound you can conduct aimed fire. Ridiculous, of course, but then I could not accept the fact that blindness, perhaps, forever separated me from the sniper. My senses helped me guess who was approaching my bed. The doctor or friends from the next room. The white coat smelled fresh. The soldier's clothes smelled like a poorly ventilated hold. Blackness, a symbol of obscurantism, oppression, violence, the colour of the fascist banner. They say Hitler has a slightly reddish moustache, but they paint it black, and he, the bastard, is happy about it. Darkness on the standard, darkness on the face. The most poisonous vipers store their venom in the dark. So thought I of the blackness that enveloped me. This blackness deprived me of the most important thing, the ability to see the enemy and hit him. But I do not want to recognize and do not recognize its power. Memory helps me to see everything that was in front of my eyes before the fire hit my face. Fulfilling the task of the division commander Nikolai Filipovich Batyuk, to thwart the enemy's attack on the positions of the right flank regiment, our group of snipers used an unexpected tactic for the enemy. Knowing in advance the direction of the attack, we decided to take the enemy's command and observation posts under the crosshairs first of all. 13 sniper rifles, 13 pairs of eyes armed with telescopic sights, took under control from different points the most attractive for reconnaissance points in the depth of the enemy's fighting order. Group hunting. Its meaning was to decapitate enemy companies and battalions before the offensive began. The calculation was simpler. Hitler's officers would come out for the last inspection of the offensive strip, send them the right share of lead. Some brave man jumped forward to draw the soldiers after him. Don't hesitate. Stab him in the head. If the enemy's success is evident somewhere, turn all 13 snipers in that direction, cut off first the officers, and then anyone else, so that no one would ever cross this line, so that they would know that only death is here. In short, the group sniper fire of a scattered and concentrated fan, that's what we called it, blinded the enemy's command centres and stopped the development of his success at the very beginning. Our plan succeeded, as they say, on all accounts. At dawn, before the beginning of the offensive, the eyepieces of binoculars shone on the enemy's command and observation posts. Cockades and helmets, flashed German officers looked in our direction, but they did not take into account that against the background of the passing haze, turn into brilliant targets. In general, even before the attack began, I had used up 2 magazines, Nikolai Kulikov, T2, Viktor Medvedev 3. The others were not yawning either. But the attack did begin. Someone from a distant command post to which our bullets did not reach was driving the German soldiers to their death. Our machine gunners, artillerymen cut off their escape routes, pinned them to the ground. It even seemed to me that they were just waiting for the moment to raise their hands. And then the devil made me distinguish myself by taking prisoners. The devil is the very combat excitement that sometimes clouds the mind. I jumped out of my rifle cell, gave a yellow flare. A signal to my men, carry the fire into the depths, and ran to the place where it seemed, waiting for us to surrender to the German soldiers. I ran, waving my hands, saying, "Here I am, come to me with your hands up." Indeed, a few Germans came up. And at that moment the Ishak, a German 6-barrel mortar, roared. On their own bastards, gave a volley of fragmentation 6-pound mines. One of these Duras flew straight at me. I saw it roll over in the air. Who would have thought the German mortars would hit their infantrymen? and I didn't even want to get down to the ground, so as not to drop myself in front of the Germans. A mine fell about 30 meters away from me, bounced, and the explosion. Hot air with fiery splinters whipped across my face, and at once a thick, viscous darkness stuck to my eyes. It stuck, with a stabbing pain in the corneas, with fire burning the brain to the back of the head, and nausea too, sticky and irresistible. A week ago, after the pain in the back of my head had stopped, the doctors took the bandage off my eyes, but to no avail. The darkness had thickened even more. What a shame. The doctors wanted to please me. Thousands, tens of thousands of captured Germans were wandering through the streets of the village. The result of the Battle of Stalingrad. I cried and laughed. I cried because I could not escape from the viscous darkness, and I laughed because of the amazing sounds that came to my ears from all parts of the village, from different wards, from the windows. Look, look, there are straw boots on his feet. And what's that on his head? Ha, ha, slacks? What a bunch of soldiers. But what made me laugh the most was the rooster in the backyard of the village. It seemed to sit on the gate and greeted every column with a long coo-coo-coo-coo-you-you-you, flapped its wings, saluted, then laughed almost humanly. It was already daytime, and he did not stop, then cuckooing, then laughing. You don't see such things in a circus. Even with my blindness. Even the rooster helped me to see how the Battle of Stalingrad ended. Another week passed. On 10 February 1943, before evening twilight, the doctors again decided to remove the bandage from my eyes. The nurse slowly unwound the bandage, coil by coil, coil by coil. The tampons fell off. My eyelids remained. I was afraid it might be the same thing that happened a week ago. I put my hands above my head. That's what the doctor said. I feel large drops of sweat running down my back. It's fear. I'm afraid to face my fate. Open your eyes. Come on, demanded the doctor. I fulfilled his command and could not believe myself. In the distance at the window I saw the silhouette of a man. There was no limit to my joy. The blindness had receded, but my sight has not yet returned. You need serious treatment, said the doctor. A day later I was already in Srednaya Aktuba, where the sanitary department of the army was located. There I got a referral to Moscow, to the chief army oculist. On the same day I visited the headquarters of my division, where I learnt that by order of the commander of the 62nd Army VI, Chuikov, I was promoted to the officer rank of junior lieutenant. I am walking without a guide, but I often stumble high up my legs. With poor eyesight all roads seem lumpy. It is necessary to go to Moscow immediately, to be treated. Before my departure I was invited to the political department of the army. Major Leonid Nikolaev, the assistant to the head of the political department on Komsomol, having learnt that I still could not see well, decided to become my guide to Saratov. Trophy Mercedes dragged us along snow-covered, broken roads toward Saratov, howling engine, but could not conquer the stubbornness of the Russian land. We donated it to the collective farm and moved to the sledge. Leonid Pavlovich, the cheerful Komsomol leader of the 62nd Army. All the way distracted me from sad thoughts with the song The Blue Ball is Spinning. Spinning. He reworked it in his own way, in several versions. One about Hitler, another about Goebbels, and so on. Leonid sang about them, then with ironic sympathy, then with evil sneer, then hilarious comic, so that it was difficult to keep from laughing and not sing along. In Saratov, Nikolaev put me in an officer's carriage of a Moscow train. Outside the window flashed villages, station settlements, but in my eyes it all merged into a continuous grey strip. Passengers, military men, were thinking aloud about the results of the Battle of Stalingrad, making assumptions about the course of further events, and one thought was drilling me. Will my eyesight not be restored? In Moscow, in the polyclinic of the People's Commissariat of Defense, I was taken to different rooms for a long time. Finally, the chief ophthalmologist said encouraging words, "Just a little more treatment, and the vision will be restored." Indeed, soon my eyesight became normal. On the eve of the holiday, the day of the Red Army, I came to the hotel of the Central House of the Red Army with a duffel bag over my shoulders, in a shabby overcoat that had seen all kinds of things. The Stalingrad documents with VI. Chuikov's signature helped me to get a bed in the officers' dormitory with relative ease. In the morning, having switched on the radio, we began to listen to the latest news. Then the announcer began to read the decree of the Presidium of the Supreme Soviet of the USSR on awarding the title of Hero of the Soviet Union. My surname flashed by. I did not pay attention. There are few Zatises in the world. Besides, one of the neighbours jokingly said, "I hope this decree does not apply to those present, otherwise I will have to empty my pockets for a wash." My pockets were really empty. You couldn't turn them out. You couldn't find anything but an officer's certificate. I could get money on this certificate only after registration of the financial book, according to my position. And I didn't know what my position was. I was annoyed, at myself, at the clerk, at the chief of the division. Could I be sent to Moscow without money and with unissued documents? Tomorrow I'll ask to go back to my army. I'll visit the Komsomol department of the main political department, see Ivan Maximovich Vidyukov, as Major Nikolaev ordered me, and then I'll go back to my comrades in arms. I came to the pass bureau of the political department. I barely squeezed through to the window of the duty officer, and handing over my ID asked to issue a pass to the Komsomol department. "Wait a minute, you will be called," the duty officer answered me. 20 minutes passed. The sergeant's head peeked out of the window. He looked at the captains, majors, lieutenant colonels standing in front of him for a long time with some special curiosity. At last, not finding anyone among them, he shouted, "Is there a junior Lieutenant Zaitsev Vasily Grigorievich here?" "What else?" he said. I did not hear, but the room became quiet. Everyone turned in my direction. At that moment, a flushed, excited girl from the Komsomol department came running in. "Vasily Grigorievich," she shouted, rushing towards me. "I'm from Vidyukov. My name is Nonna. I've come to congratulate you." "On what?" I asked, ashamed of my appearance. I was wearing frontline clothes. "Don't you know? Today you have been awarded the title of Hero of the Soviet Union. Oh, how great! I am the first to congratulate you." She hugged me and kissed me. Then she whispered happily, "My kiss is a happy kiss. Now no bullet will touch you. No shrapnel will ever touch you." Brigade Commissar Ivan Maximovich Vidyukov, who had been with me at firing positions in Stalingrad, met me simply brother. "Well, hold on, Vasily. Now you will be attacked by our Komsomol workers, then by correspondents." And he wasn't wrong. I would probably have been dragged through various meetings and conferences if I hadn't received a call from the General Staff, from General Shaidenko, Junior Lieutenant Zaitsev, to prepare for a report on the experience of group tactics of Stalingrad snipers. No one could tell me where to make such a report and before whom. I had no sooner, as they call it, to spread my brains and unfold my notebooks than a girl came to me in my hotel room. "Are you Zaitsev?" "I think so," I answered. "Why seems?" She was surprised. And it really still seemed to me that I was not me. "Did you come to invite me to some evening?" I asked her instead of answering. "No, you didn't. You were invited Professor Mintz in the Institute for the Study of the Experience of the Great Patriotic War. That was what the call from the General Staff was about. I will listen to Professor Mintz. But what kind of a speaker am I in front of a professor? And, already approaching the Institute, I asked the girl, "Your professor is not mistaken, for I am only a soldier?" "Ex-soldier," she corrected me, and, after a moment's silence, reminded me. "And also a Stalingrad soldier." Entering the office of the director of the Institute, I prepared to make 2 or 3 formation steps, stretch my arms at the seams and report in all the rules, in the military we. "At your call, comrade professor, so-and-so arrived." But there were 2 people in the office. One was a puny one, wearing a pince-nez, and the other one was heavier, swarthy. Which of them was Professor Mintz? It was not written on his forehead. They were sitting at the side table drinking tea, and when they saw me they stood up. I stood at attention in front of them. My tongue was stiff with confusion. At last I said hello. The man in the pince-nez called me by name and patronymic and invited me to a table. "We have Moscow-style tea." Next to the glass in a saucer, there were 3 lumps of granulated sugar. My throat was dry and not expecting new invitations. I began to sip hastily. I was afraid that I would not have time to wet my throat before they suggested that I start the report. I drank 1 glass, they poured me another. Then it became clear to me that they were in no hurry. I drink a 2nd glass of tea with a bite of sugar, as if in the middle of a conversation. The tea seems to have eased the tension. I answer questions, tell about my comrades, without looking in my notebook, in which I have prepared the theses of only the first part of the report. An hour passes, another. I wonder why it takes so long to announce the beginning of the report. Finally, my interlocutors come to the conclusion that my report is of scientific value. I almost gasps. What value is there? Not a single thesis of my notebook has not announced. As if understanding my bewilderment, one of them, Pyotr Nikolaevich Pospelov, editor of Pravda newspaper. Very interesting. You will have to repeat this message again. Don't be embarrassed. In the evening of the same day, I was informed that I was enlisted in the Vistral, where I was placed on all officers' allowances. The very next day, my financial affairs improved at once. I received an officer's salary for 2 months. Now I could, as they say, shave with cologne and go to the theatre, but I couldn't get out of my head the words of P.N. Pospelu, Pregorodonaya Pospelov. I'll have to repeat this message again. And here was the general staff. Here I met the famous snipers Vladimir Pyelintsev, Lyudmila Pavlyukhanyuchenko and Grigory Gorik. We were received by Colonel General Shadenko. The exchange of experience in sniper tactics began without much preamble. We talked so much that we did not notice when night fell. Only at the third hour Lieutenant General Morozov, whom Shadenko called the first sniper of the Russian army, tried to make a general. General Morozov liked my examples from the experience of group snipers going out to firing positions, but he felt that my proposals were not yet well thought out, and so it was decided to postpone the conversation until the next day. It seemed strange to me that General Shadenko, who had every minute to spare, agreed to this proposal, to spend another half a day talking to the snipers. The next day, Shadenko, summarizing the results, said that we had helped him to find the most accurate wording of paragraph 39 of the first part of the combat regulations of the infantry, that our judgments are interested in the supreme. You may rest for the time being, he said, but don't go far away. In the dining room of the general staff found me Ivan Maximovich Vidyukov. There is a combat mission, Vasily. Smiling, he said and explained. Now go to the military store. They are preparing a new uniform for you there. Don't leave the workshop until you get everything from scratch. See, the head of the military shop was waiting for me. Not 2 hours later, I didn't recognize myself. I was wearing everything new, tunic, trousers, chrome boots, over. You got a general's cloth, said the master, examining me in front of the mirror. Indeed, I had trousers with the general's lampas, which I had to tear off. In the morning, a luxurious limousine ZZ-101 rolled up to the hotel entrance. Pychalintsev, Gorelik and I rushed towards the Kremlin. Here was the passageway of the Sparskaya Tower. In a few minutes we found ourselves in a spacious office. Along the walls to the right and left sat the generals. The long table in the centre was empty. We stopped in front of the end of this table. Clement Efremovich Voroshilov came up to us. He greeted everyone by the hand and pointed to the chairs near the table and sat down at the end, next to us. Let's begin, comrades, he said, looking at General Shadenko. The latter nodded to Pyelintsev. Volodya Pyelintsev, a man not a timid dozen, began to lay out his thoughts vigorously and without hesitation. Voroshilov, listening to him, made some notes on the sheets in the folder unfolded in front of him. This was probably the last instance before reporting to Stalin proposals, prepared on the basis of our reports in the General Staff. After Pyelintsev rose Gorelik, then it was my turn. My speech lasted, as it seemed to me, 3 minutes. In fact, I spoke much longer. Happy people don't watch the clock, much less the minutes. Yes, I was happy that my experience and my thoughts on the actions of snipers in defense were not ignored, that they would be reported to Stalin himself. I was proud that a soldier and the Supreme Commander-in-Chief could understand each other. A little more time passed, and on my palm, from the hands of Mikhail Ivanovich Kalinin, flew the gold star of the hero of the Soviet Union. No. Congratulations. I served the Soviet Union. Some of my comrades helped me to pin the star and the Order of Lenin on my chest. For the first minutes I was even afraid to breathe. 'Tis from excitement in my ears. There was a rumble, as if the echo of the Battle of Stalingrad, a great battle where you had to stand to the death and forget that there was land beyond the Volga. I did not manage to catch Mikhail Ivanovich's speech verbatim, but I remembered his admonition all my life. To love the motherland with the heart of a loyal patriot and to serve it without knowing fear in battle.